So today's call, mainly we're going to be going over the biweekly update, but I thought we would, before we get into that, talk a little bit about some of Whack's latest endeavors on rocket fuel. You've done some pretty interesting interviews from the rocket fuel community lately. Do you want to tell us a little about them?
Yeah, so you know that old saying where like you wait for a bus and they don't come for ages, and then all of a sudden three come at once. So I feel like it's been like
Yeah.
that with Launchpad, like the interview series in Rocket Fuel, because I we talked to Wanda like a good month, 2 months ago, I think, like quite a while ago, and there were a whole bunch of guests that I kind of wanted to talk to in the middle, and it just didn't work out for one reason and another with them. And then Thomas was like, my white whale who I'd wanted to talk to from the beginning. And we had loads of
hmm
scheduling
hmm
issues and stuff. And once that got sorted out, I was like, yes, that's awesome. And then Fizz a couple of weeks ago was like, hey, I'll talk. And so we scheduled a thing with Fizz, and then Thomas has happened just right away. So I think we got two episodes in the space of a week, which is really wonderful. The Thomas episode, like I'm not saying this, as a slight towards Fizz because I loved that episode. It was such a great chat. But the Thomas episode, I feel like shared a story that is just kind of unbelievable. It's just so incredible, like how his journey from being like a high school kid, kind of being like the Bitcoin guy at school, to basically being the 100 millionaire, like even more so, I think, during the
Right.
last bear market, and just how he kind of like stacked once in a lifetime trade on top of each other back to back, like 4 or 5 times. I
hmm
don't want to like give too many spoilers for the interview, but like it's just mind boggling just how amazingly that worked out for him. And then the interview with Fizz, I think, was like right after the interview finished, I made a comment on trading saying, I just had a chat with someone and I felt like I was talking to like a friend who I'd known for years. Because I think so much of what Fizz does has kind of like inspired me in what I do with Rocket Fuel, and like some of the little things that I've tried to do outside of Rocket Fuel as well in the community. And he's been like the kind of inspiration for me in a lot of ways, right? And just talking to
It's
him,
the fizz effect.
yeah, it's amazing. It's so infectious, and I know that there's dozens of people out there who have kind of like been similarly inspired by him to do stuff. And it's just like talking to him about like community building, his experience in crypto, and like all of that stuff was just really illuminating, really inspiring, really like I felt like Fizz just is rocket pool through and through, even though he doesn't like really say that, in well he does actually. He really does now. But he embodies like I feel like what is like the best of us, and like the values and attributes he has are just absolutely phenomenal. So he's just a wonderful guy. It was so nice to talk to him. I think we had like an hour scheduled to talk in the beginning, and then after an hour, we were just like, wait, hold on, let's carry on talking. So then he had to go and do some stuff, and then came back. We ended up talking for another hour and a half as well. So the episode was 2.5 hours long, which was not expected. But
It was worth every minute.
yeah, it was amazing. It was amazing. I didn't even realize it was that long. Like the time went by so quickly. But I hope it's the case for the listeners as well, because like thinking back, there might have been a few points where it was a little rambly on my part or his part, and just kind of like lots of tangents and stuff. But I think it was really rewarding for the people who made the effort to kind of like keep up with it and listen to the whole thing. So yeah, sadly there was no
It's
pour.
really interesting. It's really interesting that both core community members in Rocket Pool both have such uh, essentially storied histories when it comes to the ecosystem. We have Thomas G, who got his start, although he had a bit of hiatus in early Bitcoin mining, and Superfizz, who in some respects predated Ethereum in his uh, role as a blockchain or advocate. He was already fighting the Ethereum fight or the Ethereum ethos fight before Ethereum existed. And really sort of just ties into what you're saying in that Fizz embodies a lot of ways Rocket Pool itself, simply because the Rocket Pool values are these is this undercurrent of overarching ideals that existed outside the chain itself.
Yeah, exactly. And I think um, like they've all grown together, right? So like when people who got into Bitcoin in the beginning, like Vitalik was a Bitcoiner. He founded Bitcoin magazine, and all these like early developers and people, they were all Bitcoiners, and that's how they got into the space. So I feel like that common root, like kind of they all like germinated from there, like these into these amazing like directions, and those kind of people, they move together, right? Like, so they work towards Ethereum together and like maintain those ideals, and then after that they kind of developed all together in a way, like that cohort of people. So it makes sense that they have those similar foundations and similar ideals, and they're manifesting that into the world now.
That's right. And if you want to learn more about these community members, check out Whack Whack Attacks interviews with both of them. Where can they find these?
So that's on my YouTube channel. Let me paste that into trading. If you just give me a minute, I'll put that in trading. So yeah, we can carry on talking. Actually, I got it right here. So if you go to my YouTube channel, and then it's right there. And then the playlist is called Launchpad. If you go into playlists, and you can find them there. There's 4 interviews that I've done so far under Launchpad. There was one with Maso, that was the first one. Then one with Wanda. So Maso talked about the Rocket Pool's bullish case, which he was talking about a lot at the time. Wanda talked about staking as a service, staking solutions, staking possibilities. Thomas talked about his trading, and then talked about Arrow. And Superfizz just, we just had this amazing conversation where it was more of a conversation than an interview. And we talked about his journey through crypto and kind of like his ideas for what communities should look like in the crypto space. And kind of like we talked about the Rocket Pool community, where we think it stands right now, how it can be better, like how we should have common values and like an ethos. And yeah, so they're all really interesting conversations, but just in different ways. The first 3 are around an hour and a half each, and then the one with Superfizz is like 2 hours, 15 minutes. So yeah.
It just speaks to Fizz just feeling like a best friend.
Yeah, absolutely. And like it honestly is like that. I don't know if like you've had much like one-on-one like chance to talk to him one-on-one, but he's so like disarming and so kind and open that it's just really, really easy to talk to him. So yeah.
These are the wonderful, wonderful people of the Rocket Pool community. We have now nearly 1,800 node operators worldwide, and Whack Whack is doing his part about in documenting who these people are.
Yeah.
So let's get on to a bit of what's happened in Rocket Pool over the last 2 weeks. Starting with a bit of the numbers. So the protocol continues to grow at a steady clip. What I've recently been comparing is the Rocket Pool rETH minted to stETH minted. And for the past week or two, it's been neck and neck. Some days Rocket Pool is beating Lido, some days Lido is beating Rocket Pool, but overall, relative to where things were uh, about 2 months ago or around the merge, Rocket Pool has really taken the lead.
Yeah. So I think one of the reasons why that's happened as well is because Lido still has their discount on the secondary market.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no
Mm-hmm.
incentive really for people to mint new stETH, whereas the rETH minting is happening in a way that people are now arbing the premium for the rETH token. So as we're getting those mini pools like turned on and through the queue, then we're able to mint more rETH, whereas stETH people are just buying in the secondary market.
That's right. Ramana has contributed a really incredible piece of technology to the ecosystem with that Rocket Arb, which is essentially where all the rETH supply is being generated from. Just yesterday, we had a pretty special moment when one user spun up over 50 Rocket Arbs and minted over 20 ETH in profit for themselves. So that was incredible to see.
That's really impressive, yeah. And one of the things that has happened this weekend as well is Popash they created a Docker container for
That's right.
the contract, so it's even easier now. So when I used the contract 2 weeks ago to spin up a mini pool for a friend, um, Romana had to kind of like handhold me through it because I'm a complete command line interface like newbie. Like I wouldn't have been able to figure it out on my own. But then Popash like has made it into literally 2 commands. You use one command to turn on the Docker container, and then another command to start your mini pool using the ARP contract. It is as easy as it can possibly be, and there is absolutely zero reason now for a person not to use that contract while setting up a mini pool.
There may be one though, and that is still not endogenously supported by the smart node, which is
Mm.
being worked on, and it will soon. It's unclear how soon, but it will be released as a add-on officially, so that even that last barrier of knowledge can be broken.
Well, the one point that we need to remember about that is though it'll be as an add-on, so it won't be
Hmm.
audited during the round of audits
That's
that are
right.
happening now. So that's one thing that people have to keep in mind. However, being an add-on means that it's kind of had a look over by people in the community and by the team, and they'll like give it special attention in the way that it might not have had before. But the case is that hundreds of people have used this. Hundreds of people have now gotten ETH back in terms of ARB,
Hmm.
and it works, right? Like we can all see that it works. So yeah,
Speaking of the smart node, version 1.7.1 is now live. It includes some minor bug fixes across almost every client and is a medium priority update. So if you're listening and you have not updated, I do recommend you do so.
yeah. So this is an update that's been due for a couple of weeks now. It's just Joe got COVID, and thankfully, he's
Right.
recovered from that. And also, there was some issues with the Besu update that was like due to come, and a Nimbus update that was due to come, and it just took longer than expected. So all of those things kind of together meant that 1.7.1 was kind of like quote unquote delayed by about a week or a week and a half. But it's not a crucial update, so it's not like anyone missed out on anything there.
That's right. And if you are a node operator ever want to update independently, that is still possible. Just takes a little bit more effort on your end.
Yeah, and that's actually really straightforward too. You just have to go into the terminal user interface, like a rocket pool, and then smart node config, and then you just change a line of code. Like it's really straightforward. Like once you do it, like all that fear that you might have about it kind of like goes away, and it's quite straightforward to do that. So the documents are really good on the staking website.
So switching over into research and development, another community member that we all love, Patches, put out a Twitter thread recently about the rescue node that him and uh, Popash, how do you
Popash,
pronounce their name?
Popash.
Popash,
Yeah.
Popash, Popash have been working on. So the rescue node is going to be an invaluable resource to, especially the people who are running low power ARM operations, as they have a slightly higher risk of needing a backup. And this is what the rescue nodes will provide, a universal backup, in, mainly in cases of pruning, but it can be useful in other cases that are unexpected.
Yeah, so this well basically around the merge, this is when Popash set up the rescue node because a bunch of community members were struggling with Besu, including myself, but
Hmm.
I didn't need the rescue node at the time. But that's kind of where it started. So, Popash has been running this the last 2.5 months and doing an amazing job of it. And I think a whole bunch of people have now actually used this as their fallback machine. And it's going to be an invaluable service to the community. And you could see that just by looking at Patches' Twitter thread. It got incredible
Hmm.
likes. It got featured on Anthony Sisano's Daily Gwei. A lot of people championed it as like, the best of the Ethereum spirit and like community projects to make staking accessible to everyone, right? So one of the things is people are scared of downtime by running a staking system at home. Whereas something like with the rescue node now, that fear is much alleviated.
Similar to the smoothing pool, this is another novel sort of benefit you can only get in the Rocket Pool ecosystem compared to being a solo staker.
Yeah, so there are a few people who are talking about setting up smoothing pools in other areas, but
Hmm.
it seems like their contracts are not quite. They're missing certain pieces of information like MEV theft and stuff. So it'll be
That's
interesting.
right.
It'll be interesting to see how they get along with that. But at the moment, Rocket Pool is the only team out there that has a functioning, operational, effective smoothing pool that's working really well every month. So congratulations to Joe and the team for getting that set up.
On a brief tangent on that topic of MEV stealing and sort of addressing smoothing pools and actually just LSD tokens overall, it's going to be very curious. I had a conversation with Sam Kazemian of Frax Finance yesterday on Twitter, sort of wondering about how they're going to make this transition to permissionless node operation. And one sticking point that's hit Swise that they're still dealing with is that exactly MEV stealing how do you secure against these long tails? Right now, Rocket Pool, we're at 16 ETH of collateral. That's like a pretty good amount of coverage. Ken did this analysis where you get most of the lottery box, and it's very unlikely for someone to steal with huge negative externality protocol. But if you're running at a 4 ETH bond, which is what Frax wants to do, what Swise wants to do, there's a huge range of like mini lottery blocks that are now prudent to be stolen. So it's unclear if any other protocol has really solved what Rocket Pool has already accomplished.
Yeah, so it's interesting that you mentioned Ken's research there because that was phenomenal. So what Ken found that was it is extremely unlikely that the 16 ETH model would ever like be in a position where the MEV theft could really be abused, um, or so much so that even the 8 ETH of collateral would be extremely unlikely to be abused as well. So that's why, that's where the birth of the LEB8s came from. That research took place in that process. LEB4s and 2s might be more effective for, well, Lang has talked about this on the Blockstrat chat we're going to talk about later, but
Mhm.
he teased LEB4s and LEB2s at the end of 2023. So at that point, if we have forced exits, then maybe it might be usable then, but that doesn't exist at the protocol layer yet. So there'll have to
That's
be
right.
there'll have to be upgrades happening to the core Ethereum protocol to enable that to happen. So until then, we've got a great model that works, and LEBs going live in a couple of months are kind of like the limit of the I think the MEV theft stuff.
So backpedaling a bit back to Patch's Twitter thread on the rescue node, there is also a modest grant being sought from the GMC to sort of build and maintain the rescue node. Whack Whack is, of course, on the GMC, so probably can't make too many comments on it, but I, being not on the GMC, am free to say that I fully support the financing of this rescue node, and I'm glad to see people making very useful and practical grant applications.
So Patches' grant application is kind of like a beta, I want to say. It's like kind of
Right,
took,
feels like it.
yeah, it took some information that Joe kind of shared in the GMC thread and just kind of ran with it. Um, I can give you some information about where the GMC stands right now without, divulging any private information. So right now there is a thread on the on the DAO forum about what the charter and the rubric for grants should look like. That is going to be up until December 10th. So please get in there and give your feedback and let us know what you think about the way that we're suggesting it should be set up. After that point, once that's all done, basically within the next week, we will open up grants leading into the first week of January, I think, or something along those lines. So you'll have like 3 or 4 weeks to submit your grants. And then once the grants have submitted, the GMC is currently scheduling a collective meeting to take place to discuss those grants and grant awards. So that will be happening at the end of January. So people will hopefully be getting their first grants either by the end of January or the beginning of February.
Exciting times. There's tons of things that are worth being rewarded and are worth incentivizing. One
Absolutely.
topic that I really want to see is a Dune competition. I just think Dune Analytics is such a powerful platform, and we have such incredible minds in the community that if we threw a few $1,000s towards a Dune competition, we would immediately see tons of great infographics come out of it.
So I think one thing to make clear is that there'll be three different kinds of grant awards. The first will be like a on
Bounty, right?
yeah, the first will be an ongoing grant. So someone who does work on a regular basis and wants to kind of be paid for that over the course of a year, that'll be a grant that they can get. The second is retroactive grant. So that will be for people who have done work in the past that is most likely complete, and then they want like funding for that work that they've already done to put their own time and effort in. And then the third one is a bounty where someone can submit a bounty request saying, hey, I really think Rocket Pool should have this particular thing, for example, a Dune Analytics dashboard competition. And then they can suggest what the price for that would be. So maybe you could say, 100 RPL tokens, for example. And then the committee would decide whether they think that is a good bounty or not. And once they approve that bounty, then the bounty can go to the community, and whoever fulfills that bounty will get the amount decided upon in that.
Yeah, it's an exciting model, and I think it's going to work very well.
I absolutely
So
think so too.
moving,
Sorry, carry on.
yeah, moving forward in R&D, the 1-inch DEX aggregator integration into the Rocketpool website hit a snag in that 1-inch geo blocks US users. And so using it would violate their terms of use and puts the Rocketpool team in a sort of weird spot. And it's also generally just against the ethos of the protocol itself. So the team has decided to instead build a custom feed that is linked to liquidity sources and provide the same functionality as a DEX aggregator, but under the protocol's control. Now, this is spicy.
So I,
Yeah, it's
oh,
a
sorry.
bit of a grey area here, I think, in terms of the terms of use of 1-inch, whether it's possible for Rocketpool to use it or not, whether there's perhaps another protocol that could be used. But while I'm certainly not qualified to talk on the technical aspects, there is a certain benefit in having that under the protocol's control. As Kane kind of explained it, it's not too challenging to put this kind of thing together. And then the benefits are potentially quite large if this becomes, a fully integrated piece of functionality that people come to expect that they can use at any time. If for whatever reason one day a third party pulled the plug or made changes to how they operated, that could not only have flow-on effects to Rocketpool, but potentially any other partner that we may be working with. So all these things taken together, it sounds like it's a pretty useful investment of time to build this feed.
So do you have any idea to what degree of complexity this aggregator will be trying to maximize, minimize trade slippage? So will it be essentially like a Uniswap router wherein it's able to break up orders across different liquidity pools? I'm just wondering what degree of technical sophistication do you expect out of this integration?
So yes, absolutely, there will be the functionality to break up an order across multiple liquidity pools. The way I understand it is that the system will price up multiple options in terms of breaking up a single order, whether it's like a 90-10 split or 80-20, 70-30, etc., etc. Find the optimal result and then execute on that. So it will be fairly sophisticated in terms of that. Unfortunately, we've reached the end of the level of technical detail that I can comment on, but either on Friday's chit chat or maybe next week, there might be an option to have someone on and chat through that in more detail.
I imagine this is something where the DAO is probably going to be able to vote, or in the future will be able to vote in and out different liquidity pools into the trading, as there is some logic there in that the DAO is the one incentivizing liquidity pools, and so they are essentially picking the pools that they deem quote unquote safe for Rocket community members to use. So having a feed that's limited, or a DEX exchange limited to just quote unquote safe protocols, not a terrible UX improvement. Moving forward, Atlas audits are still ongoing and will be continuing into next month. Joe teased in trading the other day the first creation of an LEB8 mini pool. I'm guessing this was on one of the dev nets, but pretty exciting to see that coming along.
Yeah, so the team is running their internal testing while the contracts are being audited. And Joe teased the LEB8 creation, but he also teased solo staker migration too. So there's real exciting stuff happening with that. And it's nice that, some of these little tidbits are being teased. I just recorded Rocket Fuel, and before I joined this call, and I talked about this a little bit about what the timelines might look like. So I was just guessing. So I was arguing that it might be that if everything goes smoothly, we'll get Atlas on mainnet by around the middle of February, maybe end of February, and everything be on like community test nets by the middle of January, maybe. So I'm sure the team can fix that timeline, but that's my speculation, and it's really exciting. I think a lot of people in the community want to get their hands on Atlas on the test nets and see how it all works.
Well, that's right, and I'm sure Joe is anxious to get testing done by the community to find any bugs in the process.
Absolutely. The worry is that the audits bring up problems, in
Mm-hmm.
which case things might get pushed back like a month or 6 weeks. And I think that would be like one of the more disappointing outcomes. However, the latest all core devs on the Ethereum, for Shanghai, people are pushing like maybe March or April. So even with that, we should have enough space to get it out before withdrawals are enabled.
That's right, and there is significant benefit to us being able to get it out before withdrawals, in that our ability to expand our node operator base is going to be made exponentially more significant once withdrawals are live. We're personally, I'm expecting a huge outflows and huge reshufflings across the entire LSD ecosystem, because it simply becomes whenever there's a depeg. Right now, there is no incentive to burn any token. However, post withdrawals, the burn mechanism is going to be constantly used, I'm expecting, as different arbitrage opportunities happen. And the end result of these arbitrages will tend towards shuffling towards the strongest LSD tokens. And right now we're seeing Rocket Pool's rETH trade at 2% premium for weeks at a time. So it seems pretty likely that a decent chunk of the outflow or reshuffling current of withdrawals will head towards Rocket Pool. And this is a massive current. We're talking about millions of ETH being shuffled around. So a tiny slice of that is enough to inundate the protocol even post LEB8s, is my belief.
So LEB8s will allow us to mint 350,000 more rETH from day one, and that's without adding a single node operator, without adding a single new ETH node operator ETH, provided all the node operators switch their their 16 mini pools to LEBs, which won't happen. So we won't quite get that amount of lift. However, we will get a lot of lift into LEB8s, and that's not counting like solo staker migration as well. So not only will we get a huge new capacity to mint our ETH, we will also get a lot of new node operators, a lot of new mini pools. So I'm incredibly excited about the next few months for Rocket Pool. I think it's going to be fantastic.
It feels like we're going to be carving out a giant canyon just to release the river into it with withdrawals. I'm very excited.
Yeah,
So,
and that's what. Sorry, carry on.
I was just going to move on if you had any last comments.
No, I was just going to say
Okay.
that it was important to get Atlas out before withdrawals, just so we're ready for that. But I'm hoping that will be the case. Yep.
So, moving on into the world of governance, the process of ODAO onboarding is still ongoing, and Sassel has started stopping by a bit more frequently, including launching his first ever money pool. That was a pretty exciting moment. Were you there in chat for that, Whack?
I was, well, I joke that I'm like a cron, but just delayed by a few hours. So even if I'm not there for the moment, I always catch up on things afterwards, and I read everything in trading. So yes, I'm aware that Sassel was there. It was really exciting when people figured out that he was launching his mini pool and staking his RPL tokens. The one thing that Sassel forgot to do in his excitement of setting up mini pool was use the ARP bot. So it's like, no, because he actually talked about it on the Daily Grey too, just a few days beforehand. So yeah, that was funny. But he's since mentioned that he wants to get 5 mini pools, and I've also heard him say that he wants to be the number 2 person on the smoothing pool chart. So that's 100 plus mini pools. Maybe after withdrawals, he might be aiming towards something like that.
Part of me wonders if he has some private wallets that just aren't public, where he's already launched so many more mini pools we don't know about.
I wouldn't be surprised by that, and that's of course up to him to share or not share, and that's his
Hmm.
prerogative. But I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case, because he's been talking about Rocket Pool for quite a while, and talking about us in very, very favorable terms, and consistently so, and like always promoting the new smart node releases, giving huge mentions to patches this week, to your threads on Twitter, Jasper, to
That's
Marceau's
right.
threads. Like, he's been very, very supportive of the protocol, so I would not be surprised at all if he hasn't been a secret mini pool operator for quite a while. So, yeah,
Huge shout out to Sassel, our future ODAO member.
I
Another,
hope so.
uh, I think that's all but confirmed at this point, right?
I think there still needs to be a vote from the current
True, right, right.
ODAO to like onboard them, but it'll be Sassel, it'll be the rocket scientists who'll be getting onboarded in the next cycle, and then hopefully onboarded in the next cycle, and then there's also, I think, plans to onboard even more people in the following cycle. So that's really exciting.
Nick, do you have anything you can update us about the timeline related to this, or is this more of a Landers question?
Yeah, nothing to add on that, sorry, but I can
Yeah.
try and find out. I'm anticipating there may be a little bit of a slowdown kind of towards the end of the year, but yeah, hopefully not too much delay until we can get that new and improved ODAR, larger ODAR structure up and running.
The community sure has been clamoring for it, so it'll definitely keep them happy for a little bit when it is live. Speaking of keeping the community happy, ETH Denver. Rocket Pool is now officially sponsoring ETH Denver. So if you are in the community and you want to meet the team that has made all of this possible, ETH Denver will be the place to be. The ETH Denver chat channel in the Discord is where the team will be posting updates about coordinating attendance and accommodation, and also where you can chat with other people who are going and plan different activities. If I recall correctly, there is usually a post-event ski trip, so that's probably something that you want to get in on if you're thinking about going.
Yeah, so the thread for the ETH Denver is not the most active, but it's got a lot of high quality content in there. Ken especially shares really good information. Zero shares good information in there, and Mav of course shares good information in there. It's a good place to get information about what the trip might look like. You can, I guess, soon you'll be able to start volunteering for the booth that the team will have set up. Also, a really exciting thing happened overnight is and into yesterday evening where people started getting emails for confirmation of their tickets. So Meek got a confirmation of his ticket. I think Butter got a confirmation of his ticket. So there's a few people now who are getting confirmations of their tickets. So it's actually really happening. It's really exciting.
Well, we all get to look forward to Butter's cooking, right? He's promised to whip us up one of his specialty meals. I'm really excited. But on a more serious note, we have been talking about ETH quite a lot on these calls. Now that everything is official in terms of contracts signed and sponsorship amounts have been paid, you would have seen there's a tweet going out from the official Rocket Pool account, kind of announcing all of this. I think we got a retweet from our ETH friends too, which was nice to see. So giving kind of a couple of days in case there's anyone out there floating around following on Twitter who's not a member of the Discord, and then we'll start getting the wheels turning on the kind of official side of our presence there in Denver. As you've just said, Wack, there's been already some great content from the community in there in terms of organising things. One point I'd be quite interested to see is where we land on the volunteer side of things. I think with these types of events, you run the risk of either having too many volunteers or not enough. I feel like if anything would be leaning towards the former. So depending on kind of everyone's availability and yeah, their stamina in terms of how long they want to hang around at a booth for, we may be kind of carving up the day into to multiple shifts and going from there. But I mean, in saying that, it's not as if it's anything too onerous. If anyone's not quite sure if they're kind of on the fence with regards to what they'll be doing in Denver, or whether they have the knowledge or expertise I would encourage everyone to sign up, so to speak. It'll be more of an informal process. If it turns out you're not available on the day for whatever reason, or you'd like to kind of hang around as a volunteer, but with maybe one of your friends present as well, we can arrange these sorts of things. So no stress, no drama. Part of it will be kind of interacting with each other, I think, and obviously meeting everyone who's there for all the wonderful orange rocket pool branding. By the sounds of things, I think there'll be a decent turnout in terms of people coming past the booth. So looking forward to that one for sure. From the team's point of view, we will be booking our travel plans, confirming them up soon. But the team will be there for the main event. So just to make that point clear, we won't be present for the hackathon beforehand, although we may turn up a day or two in advance just to set things up and get over any jet lag. And there will be a couple, 3, not sure exactly how many people staying on for the mountain retreat at this stage, but you can expect to see kind of a team presence there. So that looks like it'll be fun as well.
ETH Denver is one of the biggest events of the year in the Ethereum convention space. And with the merge now live, this is going to be the first event Rocket Pool attends post-merge, correct? I think if that's true, our notoriety or ability or our name recognition is up only. Our ETH Pagoda, was that before or after merge?
Bogota was before the merge.
Got it. So yeah, first post-merge event. Whack, will you be attending?
So I was hoping that I would be attending because I felt like some stuff that might have been on my calendar for March got cleared up with some changes in my personal life. However, with those changes that got cleared up, it seems like some other things have come up now. And I think those are going to come up ahead of ETH Denver this year. Got really excited there for a few weeks that I was going to be able to come, but now it looks like I won't be able to come. If I do come, it might be that I just kind of like hang around Denver for a few days, not necessarily with a ticket to the conference itself. But hey, I don't know how it's going to work out yet. But at the moment, it looks like I won't be coming. And I'm so sorry, Ken. I know you're listening, and I really, really do wanted to come, but I just think it's not going to work out, sadly.
Don't worry, Whack. We will hold down the fort in trading together.
Yes, of course. But if I wanted some of that swag, the volunteer for the booth swag. So maybe someone can be kind enough to donate some.
Really, I just want to see Language do a Shui live. I mean, the ultimate POAP is going to be when someone eventually makes the I saw Language Shui live POAP. That will be the POAP of all POAPs.
That would be really great.
So moving on in governance, in the world of the IMC, the last period was actually a bit of a special one, or a more controversial one, in that we have decided to start ramping down incentives for rETH bribing pool on Aura Finance. This is the most bribed pool that we incentivize in the IMC, and we've chosen to do this to see if we can reduce the premium on rETH at all. The rETH premium is in a interesting position where if it goes down, liquidity for the token will actually go up because there's a bunch of liquidity concentrated right around the native asset value of rETH because of the Gamma partnership that is ongoing, which I believe is ending today, tomorrow, something like that. However, because of the way the premium is, bringing it back down is just beneficial for the protocol overall. So the IMC is progressing on that front by reducing incentives, and we'll see how that plays out. If you want to leave an opinion on how we incentivize liquidity, make sure you check out Valdorf's latest reports and the discussion around that.
Yeah, I think that just makes sense because we're spending literally hundreds, if not thousands, of RPL per month to pay for that liquidity, pay for the incentives, where we're just providing liquidity to premium, and that makes a bad user experience for people because they can't mint rETH through the contracts. And also on the secondary market, they're losing maybe up to 6 months worth of rewards at 3% premium. So it's not the best user experience. So I think it makes sense to kind of tweak that down and maybe save some reserves for Atlas and then really go big at that time.
That's right. Fully agree. There, I was just about to say there has been this significant discussion on the DAO forum about the GMC process, but we have already covered that. Just going to shout out again, there is a proposed rubric and application process on the DAO forum. So if you are interested in that, please make your opinion known.
Yeah, and you have until December 10th to do that, at which point we're moving on to the next step of the process.
In the world of integrations, we have what might be the most exciting moment of the past 2 weeks, and that is we have been announced to be listed, because every announcement in crypto must be preceded by an announcement of the announcement. We will be listed on Coinbase. It is unclear exactly when we will be listed or when trading will be live for RPL. It is also unclear if there will be any endogenous or Coinbase supplied liquidity. However, it is clear that Coinbase will list Rocket Pool token. So when sex? Now-ish.
Yeah, the ish part is kind of crucial here because there have been a few community members who kind of like crunched the numbers to see how it's worked out for other projects. And Sleety did a good analysis of Lido's listing. It took 34 days from Lido being added to a launchpad to being actively available for trade on the Coinbase website. So that, people were kind of thinking that might be the same kind of path that we would take. However, Frank Zemo today, or yesterday, sorry, released some information that he found. So the Ghost token, the Avagotchi, I think it's pronounced, token, was listed on November 29th, and that started trading on December 2nd. So that was like a 4-day period there. So it might be that, there's a whole range of which we could be listed, potentially as early as this week to maybe even into the new year. So we're not exactly sure when it will be listed. So that's one of those things that people are kind of like really paying a close attention to. There's a lot of discussion that's happened in trading from like people who are aware of how some of these exchanges operate from some community members, and they were saying that it's most likely that the people will bring their own tokens to provide liquidity, kind of like the way it is on Kraken right now. However, and I know that I'm on the official Rocket Pool community space, and I know that there's some team members here, so I'm sorry, I'm going to say something that's highly speculative. A few months ago, we did get Wintermute popping up in the Discord, and they're known market makers, so it would kind of make sense for them to be involved in this process. But that is, of course, just speculation from my part, and I don't know what the reality of it is, and I know for sure that Maverick is not going to confirm or deny anything, but that's my speculation. I think Wintermute might be doing some market making for RPL. If they are doing that, then the exciting thing is that when they get involved with tokens, then they get a lot of exchange listings happening very quickly. So maybe the next question might be when Binance, and if that's the case, if Wintermute is involved, then that might be very soon.
So what I can share is when these exchanges like Coinbase make these announcements, it's not something that's kind of telegraphed in advance to the team. So we didn't know that this was coming out, and this is part of their efforts. If you kind of read through what the announcement actually means, it's part of their efforts to provide transparency to the wider market. I don't think we have any information in terms of the actual listing date, whether it will be more towards the 3 days or the 30+ days. If anyone did know, that would be a Langus question, but of course it's unlikely that it would be something that would be able to be shared. I think what we can take from this, though, is that if you kind of look ahead in the coming weeks and months, I don't really think it matters whether the listing happens tomorrow or in a month, or probably even, what's the date now? Like probably even 2 months' time, right? We know that it's going to happen. Their intent is to list the token. and usually a lot of these exchanges, the larger ones, you're talking, Coinbase and Binance and all of that, they do want to make sure that the listing is meaningful and that they're not just going to list a token that has no volume, because at the end of the day, a centralized exchange, or at least a normal one that's operating as it should, the way they generate return for their business is on buys and sells, right? So they want to make sure that there will be some volume flowing through their platform, and they're unlikely to list tokens where it kind of just sits and you get a buy every day or two, like we're kind of seeing with Kraken. So take from that what you will, and yeah, looking forward to seeing some more progress on that Coinbase side of things in the near future. And yeah, to add to your point, I think it was Wack, you just mentioned that when you see one, there's potentially more to come.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily know how much kind of the Kraken listing played into this, but usually, and I think, again, this is something that's been shared in trading within the industry, the exchanges kind of watch what everyone else is doing, and if one kind of goes ahead with a listing, there's usually a reason why someone's done that, so perhaps they're going to pay a bit more closer attention. It's kind of a point in your favor in terms of getting listed on other platforms as well. And of course, greater visibility in the market leads to potential other integrations, not necessarily on the centralized exchange side of things. So even if you personally listening are unlikely to use Coinbase, I personally probably won't, but it's still an incredible development and a huge step in the right direction, and great timing as well. I think although we've been saying WEN6 for weeks and months, there's probably couldn't have timed it better if we tried, I don't think.
So,
it's going to be...
sorry, go ahead, Jasper.
A couple points here. Just 3 points, probably, if I can remember them all. First, what's interesting is that Kraken started out incredibly illiquid with almost no volatility, but roughly around when the Coinbase listing went live, liquidity has started to pick up, and there's currently 4K RPL that could be bought on Kraken, which is $102,000 worth of liquidity, whereas I believe just 2 to 3 weeks ago there was maybe $10,000 to $15,000 worth of liquidity. So perhaps it is just the natural amount of time it takes for a SEX that does not supply its own liquidity for that to build. Perhaps the Coinbase listing brought more eyes to RPL on Kraken, or perhaps there is a third party who has begun their operations. Who knows? That is purely speculation, but it is true that liquidity has deepened on Kraken. Further, yeah.
Sorry, I was going to say that it's not just liquidity that has deepened, but also volume has increased.
Right.
So on the day before listing, there was $300 of volume in 24 hours on Kraken. The day after listing, it was $3,000, which is not much at all in the grand scheme of things, but it's gone up 10 times in one day, which I think is not insignificant. Sorry, your second point, Jasper.
Yeah, in relation to what Nick said about we couldn't have timed this more perfectly, I am so curious to see how the effects of liquidity getting sucked into LEB8s will play into SEX listings, right? You can't have tokens both in SEXs, DEXs, and staked in the protocol. You sort of just run out. And Rocket Pool has always been, the Rocket Pool tokenomics have always been designed around this idea of a supply squeeze. It's already sort of beginning to play out. We see we see users buy and mistake RPL, and that slowly and steadily brought the price up. But now we are going to see a huge sink potentially into the SEX exchanges. So definitely agree. Just echoing what you're saying, I think this is perfectly timed to provide the most amount of good for the protocol.
Yeah, and a point that I made on Rocket Fuel on Monday, or I think Saturday's Coinbase special episode, was this acts as a kind of hype ladder going into Atlas and then into withdrawals. So there's going to be like things happening basically every month, every 2 months now. That's going to really galvanize the community and like push the community. First, we'll have exchange listing, then LEBs will go live, and then solo staking migration will happen. So these are huge catalysts that can really build hype, build a narrative. And the main thing that I think this does is because Mav said, right? He's not going to be using Coinbase. I doubt that I'll be using Coinbase. Jasper, I don't think you'll be using Coinbase. But what
I will
happens is,
market make.
oh yeah, okay, wonderful. Yeah, you said you
I
market
am
making
market making
Kraken.
on
Yeah,
Kraken. Yes.
wonderful. Okay, but the point that I'm trying to make is that the main thing that I think comes out of this is kind of like linked to what Mav was saying about partnerships, is that we get a lot of legitimacy, right? And this is, it can't be discounted just how important this is, because legitimacy is the lifeblood of a crypto project. And one of the things that Rocket Pool has in spades is, this legitimacy that comes from the ethos of the protocol. However, one of the things that worried some people, and I know that some community members have talked about this quite extensively, is Rocket Pool's token security? Is it a commodity? Like blah blah blah. But the Coinbase listing this token is hugely bullish in that sense, because they wouldn't want the regulatory headache of it being a security, designated as security. So that is something that I think shouldn't be discounted either.
Absolutely. I think for any legacy institution looking to get into Ethereum staking, having our protocol token, which is required as a bond, having that token available on Coinbase is so much more palatable than having to say, oh, well, you can use Rocket Pool, but you're going to have to buy our token on a DEX. You're going to have to use Uniswap to get the token. That's immediately introduces so many more roadblocks and also brings up questions of legitimacy. Like, why is this token not on Coinbase?
Exactly.
Right. So now that we eliminated those barriers, we really opened up the marketplace to a huge new audience.
That's really exciting. And Sleepy was saying his grandmother has the Coinbase app, so hopefully he can get her to buy some on Coinbase.
Yeah, I've had a few people I've tried to tell Rocket Pool about. Once I finished my spiel, and they were like, "Okay, how do I get some?" Getting them to use a Uniswap just to get a single token is a huge barrier for someone who's never used crypto.
Yeah, and then especially if you would need to do token approvals and like all that kind of
Right.
stuff, it adds so many steps to the process. Whereas with Coinbase now, you'll be able to DCA into Rocket Pool's token, like RPL. You'll be able to get automatic weekly buys or daily buys or monthly buys, and Coinbase does all of that on their back end. So you don't have to do anything. You can just passively buy RPL every week.
It might be pretty interesting to see if we want to sponsor a Coinbase Earn. Coinbase Earn is a program they do where users complete little quizzes and watch little videos and then get free tokens. These videos are, of course, educational about the coin in question, but it could be a pretty good way to get name recognition out to a massive audience.
Absolutely. And they normally pay about $3 or $4 per earn
Right.
project in the tokens. The person will just get some RPL tokens, like maybe 0.01 or something of it, or zero point 0.1, sorry, RPL. And with that, like, it's a huge marketing boom as well, because everybody's always talking about the latest earn project that's come up, and they can go get crypto.
Yeah, I mean, 1 month of liquidity incentives would be the equivalent of 200,000 users reached, which is uh, orders of magnitude greater than the entire RPL wallet holding. So, lots substantial.
I'll just quickly add one point here, which has already been said, and I've also mentioned it on previous calls, but worth repeating. The timing of these things is incredibly important, right? So we're talking about the timing of Coinbase announcing, but right now there's people on Twitter, Reddit, you've probably seen them in the Discord as well, saying, how do I get rETH? I don't want to pay a huge premium. Or how can I run a mini pool? Sure, 16 ETH is a lot better than 32, but I only have 8. So timing some of these events to coincide with kind of opportunities in the ecosystem for people to participate would deliver significantly more value. And it really does feel like all of these pieces are coming into place around LEBs, Coinbase, ETH, and withdrawals. So it's going to be a pretty busy and exciting start to 2023, I think. Looking forward to it.
It's almost serendipitous.
We have a
Indeed.
good point coming in from Super Fizz in the trading channel. And to quote Fizz, Fizz is saying broadly about, I'm assuming, this sort of Coinbase earn discussion. I don't love that as a direction for the RPL token. I don't love pushing noobs into RPL if they're never going to run a node. And that is a somewhat valid critique of the earn program. It's a very minimal buy-in of stake for something that is a very DEX native protocol. However, I think many of these users who end up, if they are disinterested in the protocol and just farming rewards, they're still going to be net negative having done this process. These are users who might have never had any notion of decentralized staking on Ethereum as a concept who now are aware of that. So even if these users end up doing nothing with the token, if they end up just selling it to degen 20x long immediately, in the grand scheme, they will have been better off just for knowing of Rocket Pool.
It's an interesting topic, though, and it's something that we've discussed within the team from time to time, is balancing making Rocket Pool accessible without kind of going too far. I mean, there's phrases like anyone can be a node operator, and you can talk about the number of lines of code that you have to input or the time it takes to spin up a node. And it's a difficult balance, right? Because on the one hand, it is a responsibility, and you don't want people kind of getting in too deep or taking on a responsibility that they suddenly find out they're not really equipped for. But on the other hand, for most people, in most situations, most of the time, it is something that's achievable. And, you know, that's a very interesting point of discussion that Superfizz brought up. And then to your reply, Jasper, of there are people out there who I'm very sure are just so well entrenched within Coinbase's ecosystem or the centralized world that they're probably not even aware of how a non-custodial decentralized protocol like Rocket Pool actually works. But yeah, definitely a good discussion to have, and some valid points raised there for sure.
So we have one more topic left in integrations, and that is vendor finance is now supporting rETH as a collateral and lend token on Arbitrum. Vendor finance is somewhat unique in that it is custom lending markets. It's not like Aave or Compound where you are using a smart exchange as your counterparty. With vendor finance, if you want to lend your rETH, it is going to be against a single counterparty who has set up sort of parameters that you can accept to. So, for example, a user could be willing to lend USDC against rETH for a 25% annual fee. This user would then put up their USDC deposit, and other users would be able to borrow that USDC if they have rETH, and they will be in the terms that the USDC lender approves. What this allows you to do is sort of bypass the requirements of liquidity. There is no liquidation in this process. It's somewhat similar to a limit order sell. However, by using this method of not using liquidations, but using predefined sort of like liquidation points or sort of amount of capital required, you can do larger markets without having to worry about destabilizing the entire market. It is definitely a somewhat more complex DeFi application. So if you're not familiar with how lending markets work natively, I wouldn't recommend it. But for power users, this could be a great way to get your rETH active early before we have any Chainlink Oracle.
And also another point, if you're not familiar with how Arbitrum works, perhaps you're a mainnet maxi, or you are more familiar with Optimism or other L2s. You may have seen some of the numbers floating around on CT, on crypto Twitter, about the growth of Arbitrum being in up-only mode. Maybe this is a good kind of opportunity for you to explore what is looking like a very highly promising L2. But of course, as always, very important to do your own research first. I'm sure there'll be people in trading to help out if you have any questions or curious about how this protocol works.
It's worth noting that at some point Arbitrum will resume their Arbitrum Odyssey project, and eventually they probably will have a Arbitrum token. And Rocky Pool is going to be definitely interested in any possible partnerships, such as what we did with Optimism in their Optimism Rush. So getting used to the Arbitrum ecosystem early will only serve you later on. In terms of media and marketing, Staker Report put out a review of staking services since the merge and found that Rocket Pool has been fastest growing. This report is unfortunately only mostly true, as if we consider Frax's recent growth in their LSD, they do have, in relative terms, a bit faster growth. However, they are brand new, and starting from zero is, in relative terms, much easier to grow. We have also had some nice coverage on Twitter from CoinGecko, who noted that RPL was the 4th fastest gaining token last week, as well as our rETH having a persistent premium in the market. A German YouTuber talked about rETH and the unique tax advantages it provides for German residents on Twitter, which is pretty nice to see. There are tons of different international communities who talk about RPL. We have Dookie representing RPL Korea, and I believe there are even some Indonesian and community members and tons of different people I see in my quote tweets. So it's really cool to see.
Yeah, the community members from all over the world, which is really amazing. Blue AVM is from India, Vaca is from Brazil, and we have a whole bunch of Europeans from like Austria, from Germany, from Belgium, a lot of people from England, the USA, Canada. Like it's a really diverse group of people who pop by trading. It's really great to see.
With MakerDAO announcing the onboarding of RPL, there have been a number of Twitter spaces for sort of collaboration. Langers appeared with both MakerDAO and on Oasis, recordings of which are available. Oasis is a front end that lets users use the Maker contracts to mint DAI. Further, McFlap.eth published a piece called Maker x Rocket Pool, the evolution of liquid staking. So definitely check out the content related to MakerDAO. Yeah, this is one of the biggest DeFi integrations that we've had yet, and so definitely going to be important to get as much educational material out there as we can.
Do we have any numbers on how much DAI has been minted using rETH as deposits yet?
Yes, there's a bot command in the Discord, DAI stats, and if you use that command, you learn that there is currently 648,000 DAI that has been minted using rETH, which is backed by 1.9 thousand rETH. So the debt ceiling is the debt ceiling is 5 million, and we are currently sitting at just over 500,000. Most of this was actually also minted in the first 24 hours, so there has been a pretty substantial drop off in usage since. However, that also coincides with the holidays in the US market.
I think that will get like fully maxed out once we have some bullish weeks, because people want to like mint DAI and try to fold it. now the market's been a bit flat and crabby, people kind of want to make sure that we're not going down before they mint because they don't want the risk of getting liquidated.
The DAI stability rate is also being bumped up to 1%, and I'm sure that'll also draw demand towards DAI. The DYOR fund also published a writing piece about why decentralization matters and how Rocket Pool helps. They are also planning on. They also did release a website called stakerocketpool.xyz that contains a variety of informational materials related to Rocket Pool. Have you checked this out before?
I have not, but I think these are the same people who donated a Rocketeer for the Rocket Fuel 100th episode raffle. I think, I'm not 100% sure. It just seems familiar. I don't know without having a look at my notes, but I think that's those same people. So that's really cool.
Yeah, they have a nice little site with some information about how the protocol works and how to run nodes. So shout out to the DYOR fund.
Yeah, it looks like they're planning to kind of build on this as well. There was a couple of Twitter comments, I think, linked from the bi-weekly, where someone who's part of the DYOR fund was talking about their kind of plans to help spread the word about Rocket Pool, which is, great to see.
Community help is always appreciated. It's worth mentioning that there are some pretty big raffles planned that are soon to be going on live. These are related to the 1-year anniversary of Rocket Pool's mainnet. These raffles will be happening on December 15th, as well as WAC's 100th RPL episode raffle, which is happening when again, WAC?
So there's no set date for that yet.
Got it.
The date was projected to be around December 16th. However, I missed a couple of episodes for Thanksgiving, so that got pushed. But then I added an extra episode for the Coinbase thing on Saturday. So at the moment, it's projected for December, I want to say 19th, which is a Monday, but that has not yet been fully confirmed because if I take a day off between now and then I'll get pushed back again. So it might end up being like a nice little Christmas raffle. Yeah.
That would be lovely.
Yeah. So I just want to add the stake rocketpool.eth where they donated a Rocketeer for the raffle. I also have about half an ETH that was donated by Superfizz, Sneaky, and Looking for Owls. I also had a whole bunch of people donating RPL, including you, Jasper, and Ments, and Ken, and a whole bunch of other people. I'm so sorry if I'm missing your name now, but people are very generous. So there's going to be at least 3 prizes, but maybe 5 prizes. And there's 5 eligible POAPs. All of the Rocket Fuel POAPs are eligible, but also a couple of community POAPs as well. The Smoothing Pool POAP is eligible as a voting POAP, and also the Rocket Pool Sybil, anti-Sybil POAP is there as well. So there's lots of chances to win prizes in the next couple of weeks.
If you are a POAP farmer, your POAPs have been excluded from WAC's raffle.
That's right. Yeah, they're just the community POAPs that are well known and like people had to earn them in one way or another.
This really brings me back to some of my earliest and fondest memories of the Rocket Pool community. These giveaways and doing Zoom calls with Fizz to sort of watch them all happen, and it's a really nice event given that the way POAP raffles go is this sort of difficult to understand process where you have each number being pulled from the last block. It's actually been so long I don't remember the exact specifics of it, so I'll need someone to explain it to me for the nth time again. But it is definitely great. It's a longer event, which means nice bonding community time. So for the Rocket Pool 1-year anniversary, raffle that will be on December 15th and has the set prizes. First place will be 150 RPL, second 100, third 50, fourth through 10th will all be 25 RPL. And to enter this raffle, you had to have the Rocket Pool celebrates 1 year on mainnet POAP and also have a ID lower than a certain value. And this is to ensure that you minted your POAP before any refund or raffle was announced. So this POAP initially had to have been bought for, I think, $5, and that was a very effective Sybil mechanism. And so for those users who thought that celebrating the 1 year anniversary was worth $5 at the time will be rewarded potentially with access with one of these prizes.
So it wasn't just a matter of winning the prizes. Fizz also sent 3 RPL for anyone
That's
who
right.
bought one of those POAPs, and he also sent 0.015 rETH to anyone who bought one of those POAPs as well. So you're already way ahead in terms of like the value that you spent buying that POAP, and also that POAP was donated to the GM. The money that came in was given to the GMC, which was amazing as well. So yeah, anyone who got that POAP is doing really nicely, and now they have the chance of winning some huge prizes, which is fantastic.
Other recent generosity has included the mysterious anonymous RPL benefactor. This account had appeared on the Discord, funded with 1,000 RPL from Superfizz, and then began at first somewhat randomly giving them out to Discord community members, but then started simply requesting users send them a message explaining what they have done to contribute to Rocket Pool with proof, and then sent them RPL. The amounts varied from 0.1 if you are looking for owls and deserve only 0.1, kidding, to I believe the largest I saw was 30 RPL.
Yeah, so I spent a lot of time this weekend looking into the activities that the benefactor was doing. Like you said, on day one, they were having trouble getting into the Discord. They got picked, basically. So they reached out to me to ask like someone to help them get in. I reached out to Mav, and I also reached out to Kron, and Kron was the one who helped the benefactor get into the Discord. So that's when the system became a lot more organized, I guess, looking back. The prizes, the RPL that was sent out ranged from 1 RPL through 30 RPL. It seems like not a single person was turned away. So anyone who messaged the benefactor got something, which was amazing to see. In total, there was 220 plus transactions sent with about 170 unique people getting RPL. The criteria seemed to be like just saying, hey, I'm a community member, can I get some RPL? That person got 1. If you showed some evidence of work, you got 5. If you showed good evidence of work, like, if you did a good amount of work, you got 10. If you did a whole lot of work, you got 20. And then I think 30 went to people in special circumstances, but I can't really comment on that because I'm not sure who got 30. There was one person who was member of a DAO who got 30, and I think, yeah, that I'm not sure who the person who got 30 was. So that's that is what I can speculate. I'm not exactly sure how close that is or isn't to reality. One of the very interesting things was that the person who was distributing the RPL kind of knew the jokes of the community. So they were teasing community members. Butter was someone who got teased a few times, and he was sent like I think 0.1
I believe
RPL or
that was
something.
LFO.
Oh, okay, yeah, I'm not sure.
It could
But
have been
someone,
both of them.
yeah, but Butter I think was someone who got kind of like pranked a little bit, and it's just the person had a sense of humor about it. I think they were really kind in the way that they were talking to people, and of course, they were giving away $20,000, which is also a kind of kindness. But it seemed like it really galvanized the community, and it really like people really liked it. And there's one thing I just want to quickly read out, which was the parting words from the benefactor. He said, just remember, this is a time for us all as a community to really shine. Atlas is when Rocket Pool can make or break, and we'll all need to pull together and shout from the rooftops about how amazing this protocol is and how this community is the best in all crypto. 2023 is going to be a phenomenal year for us all. And then someone asked the benefactor about, are they going to come back? Are they just going to leave? And the benefactor said, see you all at the launch of Atlas for a very special something something. So I don't know what's going on in the background there. I'm speculating a little bit more on Rocket Fuel today. So if you want to see what I'm saying there, like you can check in about half an hour's time when it goes live. But yeah, the benefactor might be back in a few months' time.
I'm expecting another round of RPL rewards. I don't know. Sounds pretty likely.
Well, yeah, it's exciting. And then the benefactor also said, remember, more work equals a happier benefactor. So there's that too.
Yeah, I was very, very curious. We love our cryptic benefactor, whoever they may be. Whack, cough, cough. Anyway, a Vietnamese crypto media company released a report that, according to Google Translate, stated that Rocket Pool is a challenger to Lido's position. So again, as we mentioned earlier, there is tons of international reporting and support around Rocket Pool. So if you are in part of one of these international communities and are able to sort of help us reach out, definitely try to. We love to expand our reach across any time zone, any nationality.
And more than happy to update the bi-weekly with a more accurate translation if anyone is able to provide that. But I don't think we could find a Vietnamese speaker among us, at least not yet.
That's right, unfortunately not. Further, a Twitter Space AMA was hosted by BoxRev featuring Langers, in which they talked about Rocket Pool and sort of pros and cons of the protocol and timeline of future events. And most notably, Langers gave a little hint about potentially getting out LEB2s. So a lot of theoretical discussion about the future of Rocket Pool has centered around LEB4s as the next step after LEB8s, but not much talk has been pointed towards LEB2s, and I believe it should be, given that if you look at the next generation liquid staking token staking as service providers, you see a lot of commonalities around the 4 ETH bond. Swise is targeting it, Dappnode is targeting it, Frax allegedly are targeting it, and I believe that's all that comes to mind as the future permissionless or the next generation. But the point stands that if these new staking as a service models are aiming at 4, can we do better? And so seeing research about, or even early discussion about LEB2s is pretty exciting.
Yeah, Langers has certainly been quite, I guess, ambitious is the word, in terms of looking at the LEB collateral as down only as much as possible. So certainly, if there's a chance that LEB2s are going to work out, there will be an investment of time to make sure that's fully researched, to see if it's a viable option further down the road. I think it's pretty exciting, and by the sounds of things, could be sometime next year. I think we have kind of run to the end of at least the bi-weekly, but I may have mentioned in the Discord update that we may get Langers on next week as a replacement, but I think between the three of us, we've done a pretty decent job of chatting through all these bi-weekly topics. So may or may not be necessary, but certainly we will have the Friday chit chat back on, at least Friday for for Australia, New Zealand. Thursday for some of the rest of you guys, but yeah, come along and join that. The last couple of Fridays were kind of a no-go, so it'd be good to get this back up and running again. As far as I'm aware, also no Langers, but he should be back next week, so we can pester him about all the Langers topics then.
So before we end the call, can I just make one comment about LEB2s? Well, a couple of quick comments. So the first one is, it seems like there's more research that obviously needs to happen, but one of the main things that needs to happen to make it possible is forced withdrawals at the beacon chain level, which will mean that people will sign over their withdrawal keys as they're setting up a pool. And if they're acting badly, then Rocket Pool will be able to kick them off the network, and that will be their punishment basically. The second thing is that has me super, super excited about LEB2s is that without adding a single new ETH by stakers and without adding a single new mini pool by not adding a single new node, we will be able to onboard 2.5 million new rETH just because of the way the dynamic works by shifting from mini pool 16s to LEB2s. So that is an incredibly phenomenally bullish situation for rETH if it can happen. I think it would be the most amazing stimulus for growth that's possible. So I'm really excited about LEB2s. I really wish to happen. And of course, a lot of work needs to go into that before it happens, but that would be tremendous.
Can you imagine the future of LEB2s with eigenlayer on top?
Okay, I think I'm going to end the call here now for me.
Must resist urge to buy more RP. Anyways,
yeah.
Did you have any more comments? Or? Okay.
No,
yes.
no.
As Maverick has alluded to, that is the last point of our bi-weekly update. So thank you all for being here. Today we talked about, one second, as I just lost the bi-weekly. We started today's call with a little review of what Wack's been up to over at Rocket Fuel and Launchpad. He has highlighted some incredible stories from the Rocket Fuel community, most recently Thomas G and Superfizz. So if you haven't yet listened to Wack's Rocket Fuel daily update on the Rocket Fuel community or these two lovely interviews, make sure you go check his content out. We then carried on into updates on the protocol and how the protocol is chugging along quite well in growth. In fact, oftentimes on days outcompeting Lido and all other staking derivatives. We talked about how 1.7.1 is now live. Although Joe had been sick, he still has managed to get this update out for us. In the R&D world, Patches put out a Twitter thread about the rescue node and how the GMC will hopefully be funding it. Further, we talked about how the team has moved on from using 1inch as a DEX aggregator to now exploring a custom internal type of aggregator that can be under the control of the protocol. Atlas audits are still ongoing and on schedule. In the realm of governance, the ODAO onboarding process is still ongoing, with Sassel recently doing some fun community engagement, including launching his first mini pool. The Rocket Pool team has confirmed and paid for the ETH Denver sponsorship, so if you are listening and interested in attending, go chat in the ETH Denver channel. The latest period has been posted by the IMC, including the reduction in bribes aimed at reducing the rETH premium. Further discussion is being had about how the proposed rubric application method should be for the GMC. Coinbase, most notably, has said sex now, well, soon TM. Coinbase announced that they will list RPL in the near future, so when that happens is unclear, but it will happen. Vendor finance on Arbitrum is now allowing rETH as both a collateral and lend token in custom markets. So if you are willing to create a custom market against your token using rETH, you can on Arbitrum. Advanced DeFi users only, I would recommend. In the media and marketing world, Staker Report announced that Rocket Pool has been fastest growing, and CoinGecko announced that RPL was the fourth highest gainer last week. Various international internet personas have been talking about RPL, including a German crypto YouTuber and a Vietnamese crypto media company. There has been a series of Twitter spaces between the MakerDAO team and Langers, including with Oasis. The DYOR Fund published a piece about Rocket Pool and launched their website, at stakerocketpool.xyz. They are hoping to increase information about the community, about the protocol, so definitely check out what they have done. There are 2 ongoing major POAP raffles related to the 1-year anniversary of Rocket Pool and the 100th episode of Rocket Fuel. So if you have either POAPs, check out these raffles. Lastly, Langers was on a Twitter space with Bloxroute, in which he made a little mention towards LEV2s. So if you're curious about that, check out that check out the recording of that space for more. Thank you again to Whack Whack Attack and Maverick for being here with me. That was your Twitter space. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for having me. Thanks, everyone.
Great call. Thanks, guys. See you later.